Oh, there I am.
Admit Connor.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Connor.
It's your trusty friend.
So now go to the share screen and see if you can find our PowerPoint.
Have it up.
Click through some of the.
Hey, Regina, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes,
good
we can.
morning. Um,
Okay, we'll go back out again, and so what I have to do, go back to Google.
close this. And it's right there. But this isn't the Zoom page I'm at.
Now, go back to the Zoom page, and then we'll go. Yeah,
Where's my Zoom? I really am not good at this. There I am.
there we are. There it is.
Okay.
Now, we're probably not gonna cast it, so I'll pull it up so we can watch it. Because we've had issues with the casting in this one every single. So we'll just pull up Zoom.
Okay, can you see my screen, Connor?
I just use it
Yeah, I can see it.
Awesome. Okay.
there.
Tyler, is there anything new in your world in real estate that you want to share?
I'm sorry,
Yes.
you cut out. Say that again.
Oh, we miss seeing you in the office. Is there anything you would like to share? Anything that exciting that you've encountered in regards to real estate or
Well, with last week, I was actually I was on vacation and I met a bunch of other realtors from around, just talking with people from around the country, and it's kind of interesting to get their, how their market is doing versus our market. So that was interesting.
that's good. Well, you could probably break some of your vacation off because you had really
That's what I was thinking.
so made it into a networking event. So, all right. So have you put together your and buyers work
Scanning things they check.
everybody check in. Good morning, Callie. It's nice to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we have Serenity in the office and then Callie. So right now. Have you guys done sellers presentations?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the same as the?
I'm still working on mine.
Is there something that we can help you with or?
I'm still trying to put together all the documents that I need, and I think I have a lot of them. But yeah,
Okay.
I went on the command and saw the template thing, and there's a lot of pages in there. There's like 30 pages for it, so I'm gonna have to narrow down kind of what I want and what I don't want in there.
So do you guys feel comfortable if you got a call today, able to put a presentation together to go out and do a buyer's or seller? If you had a client that said, hey, I want to meet right now.
No, I'm gonna say no to that.
I mean, I'd probably say no because I don't have it all together.
Well, we want to make
I
sure.
guess, can you talk about like what kind of those steps look like? Like, do you,
Yeah, so if somebody calls and says, hey, from so-and-so, they said you're in real estate. I like to make an appointment on my house or buy a house, right? Then you're gonna say, great. Step is for us to sit down and do a consultation so that we can go over expectations of, and then you would be like, when would you, well, times that you're available. And you can say, okay, well, I can meet you tomorrow at for you. And if they're like, no, I really was wanting to meet with you this evening, then sure that, so like I got my guide done, and then that you comps to get an idea of where you would price it once you get there. And then know the paperwork well enough that if you were sitting down and doing a comp, that you could walk your buyer or seller through the paperwork. And then if you know, you just, if you didn't understand, but the idea is to know your paper through the paperwork at a consultation and know the market well enough that you could do a, you know, and then understands the steps of buying, could explain it to set expectations for your buyer and seller.
Yeah, and if they tell you area of town, then you know how to, you know, find that zone on MLS. You can, you know, show those sorts of things. You need to kind of plan ahead for that.
Yeah, and if you're not, then what I would suggest is like with somebody and spending sometimes grip practicing with each other. And I would say try to do that. If you could do at least or, you know, at least a couple times a week, those conversations and what they would look like and the time, like how to go through everything, like build your confidence so that when you go and meet a true client, you're going to be.
I will say Dominic and I, because we're accountability partners, Kristen said it'd be good to also, because I was looking to just use him also. So now it's like Monday through Friday. We have 2 different time frames, like 12:30 to 1 every day. And we just go back and forth, and he's door knocking, practice that with me, and then I have to act angry because that's what he normally gets. He's like act angry, and so it's kind of fun, and we made it really fun, and then we like debrief it differently, and it's been a lot of fun. I really think, yeah. So I'd rather be uncomfortable with him than somebody that's gonna pay me.
Right.
Well,
So-
don't for Tuesdays, we've been going over like the questionnaire to take for buyer consultations and the question consultation. And that has things you need to make sure you're asking because you need that information in this process. So use those documents also because that'll kind of give you a format of, you know, information you're capturing. Yeah.
All right. Thing today is to text 5 people, message. The average home sale price in Kansas City last month was. Curious what your, you guys know how to find the average price point?
Is it on the monthly MLS statistics that come out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Statistics, yes, you got it.
So
Where's that at?
You can go into MLS, I believe, and click statistics, and it will bring it up. But then I also usually get an email about it.
yeah, it comes in. You usually get an email when it comes. Casey will also do an update. It'll be in our meeting and also to the MLS under stats. It'll pull up there. You could do like on the MLS, like you could do check if you want to make it like more specific to like a subdivision or more specific to like a city, Roland Park or something. You can do the sold frame,
Okay.
and then you can put in the MLS Roland Park, and it'll pull up all the solds for that. And then you can hit quick CMA, and it'll pop up the average on the quick CMA. And you can use that also. So that's another way to do that. So
I went to the market reports and I'm going to the home sale trend report.
okay.
So I always go to KCR. I don't get this.
I think that's where I've ever done.
All right. So make sure that you guys are texting your 5 people. And there was some Ignite homework from Tuesday. Well, it's finishing your buyers and sellers
Right.
consultation. So you're not getting a gold star. I'm gonna need you to.
Right.
You'll.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So the average sale price is $341,000.
So 341. So it looks like the average sell. It looks like the housing pricing is coming down because that was 380 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, year to date, it was 330.
Yep.
And then we are also doing our social media 1051. So that item today is to get on social media and make sure that you're liking 10 and messaging or sharing one thing to your database. I can say the more active I'm on social media and been able to kind of tell, a little bit more in regards to what some of this in regards to what's happening in people's life. So little hints and things like that possibly help you reach out and do your touch.
You said it was 10 likes, one mess, one post.
One share or post in one. So 10 likes, 5 interactions. So like 5 DMs or 5 messages, and then one post. So kind of what sellers are wanting. Sellers are wanting help getting a price for their home. They want you to make sure that you're marketing to when they need to sell ways to fix up their home to sell it for more money is really important. And right now, like I have a seller who bought high in 2021 and so they're probably going to break even high. And I was looking at the appraisal when they sold, and the comps that the appraiser used were just wild appraisal. We're 3.5 miles out in a subdivision, which would have had plenty of comps within this. And they were newer homes and they weren't the same kind of style of homes. I don't have any control on the buy side, which comps. And you never have any control what the appraiser picks. But looking at those comps, I was like, this was a horrible appraisal, like horrible, like, I guess it won the deal and it appraised, it was great. But on the flip side, clients that bought in 2021 when they go to resell here in the next few years aren't going to. So my conversation around, breaking even is had you rented for 3 years, you would have lost $84,000.
Mm.
So essentially, over the time that you've lived in the home, kind of live for free, so that's, when you're meeting, having some of those tips and tricks in your pocket when you're like, oh, this is kind of just, they bought at 380 and they're probably going to sell at 390, and the time they pay their costs, probably going to break about even or feel like they maybe lost some money. Changing their mindset on how they look at the deal, and on the front end is kind of what our job is, right? To kind of head of those conversations. And so,
Since let them or had them buy that house, given it was their idea,
Mhm.
like they saw would they ever come back on you and be like, well, this is how it appraised and you still said it was okay? Like, how would you navigate?
That's where doing your CMA before making an offer is really important.
Okay,
This deal, I was out of town and somebody else made the offer for me.
I see, okay,
It made an offer to win and not an offer based off of what was best.
okay, that makes sense.
So then so then it's kind of the aftermath now, you know,
Mhm.
and so, that's a lesson on my behalf, you know, that whoever's covering your business when
Yeah.
you're away, doing it the way you would do it,
I see.
you know, and not just going crazy, so. But luckily, I've done a very good job staying in contact. And so they still trust me, even
Okay.
though, and knowing that they bought hot, they just bought hot.
That's kind of the market, so.
Yeah. So, but they bought and their mortgage would have paid for rent for the time that they were here. So,
Mhm.
Breaking even.
so sellers need us to help them with time frame and conveyances. So this is, you know, kind of what they're wanting from us. So we want to make sure that, you know, we're providing these things. Understanding too, like, hey, if you know, what's the next step? So like if price in the house, this is your time frame. Do they have to have another house to go into? House without and rebuy? Are they gonna sell? You know, because as you start to get offers in and stuff like that, you want to the offers that are coming in reflect what seller needs in regards to their time frames and stuff like that. So if they need, you know, a rent back or any of that stuff.
Coaching.kbuk.com. How to go there.
So making sure that you're always doing a need analysis. You know, can they sell this house? Are they going to net enough to be able to get into their next home? Or cover, you know, bought high and they're selling now. Do cover the loan that's, you know what I'm saying? If for some reason, let's say the house is now 80 and it's worth less because of the way the market is, after they pay their costs and stuff like that, are they going to be able to cover the mortgage? And if not, to the table. So really understanding what their payoff is and those conveying how the title is transferred from them and the, you know, the process of working with the title company, that there's not any liens on the property or any of that stuff, and that they can make sure that the transaction goes smoothly. So. So price concession, possibility. So make sure your sellers understand, you know, the more, the less inconvenience this can be when we first go on the market. We want to make sure that we're getting in the property as quick as possible and being considerate of their you know, making sure that every is getting to see the home and things like that. So if you have a difficult sellers who home or their schedule doesn't during the day and stuff like that, you know, and they're wanting to restrict, and that's going to potentially put a curveball in regards to how long it could take to sell. Buyers are anxious to get properties, and sometimes from your house if they can't get into it. And agents are not most paid to if it's too difficult to get into. So you want to make sure that it's accessible. And the pets need to be removed from the property or detained.
Which slide?
Seller's control.
Thank you, I'm just gonna.
So making sure that reason they're buying and selling, you know, if the seller were to lose their job or have to make 2 payment amount of time because the house that they're first selling, can they carry 2 mortgages? Would this, you know, put them in a fund if for some reason the house didn't sell? Are they up to renting it if for some reason went and bought a house and then now their house is sitting on the market a little long normally would because of the new market. They have a contingency plan if, you know, for some reason it doesn't sell in 30 days. So want to make sure that we're communicating those things in front of those things. So remember that selling a property doesn't solely rest on our shoulders. That the seller's a partner with you. And these 3 things are very important, right? So, and they're not reasonable in regards to price. It may not be the best working relationship or know that it's going to be a difficult relationship. So when you're doing your consultation, that's why setting expectations are so important, because if you allow the very beginning, you're going to have a really hard time getting them to listen to you during conversations, and then they're going to blame you. And then when say, okay, you know, remember when I gave you this guideline and you chose to take the higher number versus meeting some or potentially listing at a more aggressive number to get multiple offers. We're looking for that one buyer. Well, that one buyer right now is not out there. So now so we're going to have to take a price reduction in that case. And of what a price adjustment looks like in regards to, you know, being aggressive versus like moving $1,000 or $2,000 down. Is it going to do anything? The pricing coming out the gate, it usually is, you know, a 5 price reduction that needs to happen.
Does it look bad if you like priced it high and nobody's it and you keep having to reduce it?
Yeah, well, yeah, you don't want to change. When you do a price reduction, you want to do it aggressively enough that it resets your buyer pool. And so having that conversation up front with your seller in regards to, okay, high, and we don't get those 1 or 2 people who are willing to pay that number to get into your, then this is what it looks like, right? And because it is essentially they get to set the number. You know, we just give them a range. But hopefully they'll meet you in the middle in regards to pricing, but not always. So so our job is to them on how to get the best possible price with the least amount of work and the quickest time. So we need to know our market. So if you guys aren't doing the contract, that if you guys that's going to come out this Wednesday, make sure that you're running if you have the ability to go on tour, that will give you an option to some of the premier properties that are listing and what those listing agents are doing. Quickly, how are they staged? What's the present looks like? The presentation of the property look like? Does the home smell like? You know, those are also many important things. Like if you're sitting down, those are the hardest conversations, especially if you're close to the person, is if there's a dog smell, like a pet. So the idea is to, you know, unfortunately, that you love your pet and your pet's like part of your family, right? But not all people are going to feel like that. When we're selling a property, we want to remove that from the property. You know, if there's dog bowls, they're picked up. If there's, you know, anything like that, they can remove the dog from the property. They're in a kennel or something like that. Well, so they won't be able to relax and enjoy looking through the property if there's a dog like or cats like are kind of scary to people,
Mhm.
you know, so
Yeah.
well, it's just a cat, you know. But like I was showing a property, cats are kind of like territorial or very, very territorial. I like peed on the carpet because of and it plus it makes the animals anxious, right? That they don't know in the house and their owner's not there with them. That's anxious and they do things that they normally wouldn't do. So it's also to protect that you're not exposing them to the anxiety of everything that has to go house too. So any kind of like smells like smoke, mothballs, only conditions. So the way we show a house to sell it is not the way. So, but our goal is to sell during the time that we're on the market. You know, you want to minimize as much clutter, shoes, make sure that you're keeping your bathrooms and kitchens clean, dishes in the sink and things like that. So really doing those kind of activities that deferred maintenance items are taken care of, you know, there when people walk up, they're keeping their grass cut right now. And it looks nice when if there's anything of value in the property, cash, jewelry, you know, any kind of guns or anything like that are put away for safe. Any prescription drugs,
Yep.
you know,
People will open them. And they look, they open things, so you need to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
Protect
So-
yourself.
is it good to make sure that don't leave your iPads out charging and things like that. So those things are super important. The process of selling. Okay. What's the next page?
If something gets taken from the property, the buying agent, would they be who comes in or?
Well, I've never had it happen. So if something gets, I mean, it's probably a broker to broker conversation, how that's going to be held. And I'm sure there's some the agency agreement that protects us for that kind of stuff. It's also your relationship, right? So you're, you know, you're going to be their advocate if they hire you. So you're going to have to figure out what that looks like.
Yeah.
So, and having sensitive conversations is the hardest part, especially people are very emotionally attached to their home, you know, and so making sure that your conversation is and not in a offensive manner. And a lot of times people are really emotional in the transaction or get emotional because it's all over the place. You're going to have to learn how to navigate sensitive conversations because like, you know, like this picture here where there's plates on the table and things like that. Properties are really hard because renters don't want to move. Renters don't home. And generally they don't cooperate well with the list and they keep it challenging, right? So and have an invested interest in it. So they're not going to make their bed. They're not, you know, they don't the house is going to show how they live in it, you know, trash overflowing. Because if they're resentful because they're having to move and they didn't want to move, not as helpful. So the seller's price point.
Sure.
So a lot of times it's better to just wait or gamble on having a window that you're not gonna get rent and show the property vacant versus trying to show it with a tenant already in place.
Mhm.
So,
I have a suggestion for people don't clean their kitchen well, or they do have, a cat and you can smell sorts of things are very hard conversations to have. I often use the example with my client. Somebody coming through the home that has an allergy. So
mhm,
we need to make sure all the cat stuff's put up or things are back in the cabinet so people wouldn't get exposed to it. Because
mhm,
that way you're not telling your client that or that their cat stinks.
mhm.
But you're giving them a valid reason to be more cooperative.
Mm.
Just, that's a good way to kind of deal with the issue directly to your client. We have a problem because your cat box stinks.
Mhm.
And so garage for the day, something, or maybe even out on the back porch, or we have.
Yeah.
Those are tough things.
So great agent and client communication. So provide a strong foundation for your set and manage expectations. So whatever you tell your that you do it, especially in this market, right? Updating them back is very important. And pricing strategies, right? Getting the results that you hope for when you go out to the market. If they've gotten, depending on the area too. So you may only get 1 or 2 showings your first week in certain areas. And knowing like what the average data sell is and that thing. So it's like it's probably going to take us 15 days or 30 days before we get an offer. We're getting some activity, we're okay, right? Now, if you get like 15 people through the property based off of that feedback, you're probably overpriced and you need price to be able to catch the offer that somebody would make. Agents are still in the mindset that you have to make a full price offer. The first couple weeks, you know what I'm saying, on the market. So you want, there's negotiating room and your seller gives you the okay that have seen the property that you're saying, okay, if they're saying it's price, my seller has given me the approval to be able to reach out to let you know that they will review all offers. So please submit any offer, right? I'll give the other agent permission to do that because agents who haven't worked through a negotiating market are still, so inspections, inspection resolution since I got into the market in 2019 and 20 because I never had to do them. Knowing that it's okay and giving your co-agents the those things, it might be helpful. So location are the first things that attract buyers to their homes, you know what I'm saying? So that's really important to understand. And then that people have that move-in ready feeling when they go into a property. So maybe the experience that the client is receiving, like they could walk in this house and they could feel like they could just move. And so if you have like bulky furniture and it's a smaller home, you might want to and get rid of some things because you want them to be able to experience of living in a home. So vacant property, like right now with it raining, it's really important that you go check on the base. I'm saying, and kind of check on the property. If you have a listing and you've had a you might want to go check on the property at the end of the day to make sure that it got shut up and is closed up. And
And drag mud to the kitchen. All the other things.
yeah, so you want, so property staying on the market for longer periods of time, you want to make sure that you're kind of like the property in the property. So,
Need to check on it for your clients, yeah.
all right. So other things to keep in mind is fair housing. So making sure that our perception isn't, or our opinions are not non-consciously biased else, right? So when it comes to like school districts, safe neighbor, family friendly, so even when you're writing, you shouldn't put the word family in your descriptions because not everybody has a thing that has to do with fair housing status, walkability. That could be for like if somebody has a disability. So you want to make sure that you're really mindful of the words that you're using. Changing out master bedroom, you should be using primary now. So make sure that you're being very mindful of the words that you're using in your description may affect or be perceived by somebody else. That's man cave, right? A single woman might buy a house and have a man, so not, so or she shed. So you about defining things by statuses that would violate. Yeah. So and then you have to be careful because like if you have a seller who is breaking these rules, you've got to report it. You can't, you know what I'm saying? So if the seller and they see the contract and it has a person's name that's a different culture, and they're like, well, I'm not going to take that offer because it says Perez and there's no that has that last name, then you've got to report it, right? So like when Iowa had a seller and he was selling he had a rental property next to his house and the offer came from a single lady and he was like, well, I don't like, how's she going to take care of her yard and stuff like that? Like, I'm like, you cannot not. She's a single woman. I said, I'm a single lady and I probably take better. A lot of people do. And had he not taken that offer based off that comment, not do the deal. I said, so if this is a reason that you're not going to consider her offer, and I'm saying that this is probably not going to be, we can't do this deal, because he's based off of not wanting to sell to a single person.
I had that same experience with a woman didn't want to. Before she wanted a local person buying her home. I said, well, like I said, it doesn't really work that way. It's allowed to buy our homes.
Yeah,
You can't
and
discriminate.
yeah. Now you cannot,
asked-
you know what I'm saying? If the homeowner doesn't want to sell to an investor, that's different.
Yeah, that's not fair.
Go to somebody that is not an investor.
live in the home.
You can't promise that somebody who comes in name isn't going to turn it into investment property either. So there's, so it's like yourself up with it. What happens afterwards, we don't have control over it, right?
Mindful if you think your clients are doing something inappropriate, have a conversation with the broker
Mhm.
and make right, because you don't want to get yourself in trouble by not realizing something was going wrong and you
Yeah.
didn't look.
Sure that you're, keeping track of your stuff and you have your in the situation if you find yourself in those situations.
Going on.
So this is one of our Keller Williams acronyms that should, one of the join your broker, you should know their value statement. And so This is in my buyer seller presentation because who I'm in business with matters to me. You hire me, who you're in business should matter to you. And so the reason that I be with Keller Williams is because, you know, it's a win-win, and this is their philosophy in everything that so we haven't we always do the right thing. You know, our customers always come first. We're committing communication, so to seek understanding, so make sure that we're curiosity and not judgment. Creativity is before results. We work teamwork. If everybody works together in a transaction, or you know, even in the industry, then everybody achieves more. Trust starts with honesty. Mess up, just be honest. People mess up all the time. Transactions, you know, if you miss a deadline and that falls on you, you've got to be honest with it. You got to figure out how to resolve it and come up with a solution that's a win deal, you know. So if you miss an inspection and then your buyer wouldn't have bought the house, you may be reimbursed. So, but you have to be honest and come up with a resolution. Things just makes things more difficult and can get you. So, and then equity, all, you know, make sure that everybody's getting fair representation. Everybody in a transaction deserves this. And then success. So we results for people. So that's one of the reasons why Keller Williams is, you know, launch program and being an agent-led brokerage is a little bit different. People here in the building really want to see results through other people and want so that's kind of the principle. So you should see that culture brokerage. And then that should be one of the reasons, you know, like, you know, our vision statement. If you don't know Keller Williams vision, know their mission, you should know, you know, and knowing who you're in business with is really important. The next thing, because once you get a listing, listings are not always the easiest, you know. Most of you will get a buyer first because you're doing open houses and things like that. You get a listing, making sure that you are leveraging it to get the most out of it. So make sure that you're marketing your listings. You make sure that you leverage to get more leads. So ideally you should get 2 pieces of business every listing. So they're saying the person selling their house, and then they should be buying a house, or you should get another piece of business or something from them. So you should be getting at least 2 pieces of business off of every listing. If you market it well. So that's why like canceling open houses is not always ideal. You also use my open houses for leverage to get my sellers better. Because buyers are very eager to get under contract. So, you know, maybe you only get 1 or 2 offers, but you get an escalation, but you're like, hey, I don't want to have to drag this out to the end of the weekend. If your buyers will take it up to their escalation amount right now, we could be done with this. So, because there's no guarantee that you're going to escalate all the way up to. So, or hey, if you take it as a box 1 or 2, canceled. So sometimes I use my open houses as negotiation. So having a marketing plan for your listings is really important. So the marketing plan, Price your home competitive with the current market and pricing. Advise on how to attract buyers. So our job as agents is to get the property when it first comes on the market. So getting professional photos, don't take them with your iPhone. You only have 3 seconds. The buyer's attention online, and if they aren't even intrigued to stop the scroll, it's kind of like when you're posting social media. The idea is whatever you're posting stops the scroll. You're listing together and you're putting it on MLS. If you're not as many fields as you can possibly fill in, if you're not providing agents information where they're going to stop and read it, a good presentation for the property that stops the scroll on Zillow, your job as an agent. So you want to make sure that the house, because you only have one opportunity to be new in the market. Optimizing the home's presence on the internet, making sure that it's getting in the MLS. It'll go out to probably about 300 different social media sites, like homes.com, Zillow.com, tons of places it's going out to. But I also like a marketplace. So I'm trying to get inquiries, on run an ad if you want to in regards to Facebook having open houses. If there's a local around, maybe hosting a flyer, if it's in a real fun community like Strawberry Hill, Westport, or something like that, where there's a lot of, or Brookside, where people connecting with the community in regards to your listing. So making sure that you're really getting your property exposed to the most amount of people. Share your apps with people, invite people. I mean, even if they're not looking, the feedback is valuable for your sellers, right? So, hey, Mr. and Mr. Smith, I know that you just recently bought a house, your perspective in regards to the market is valid right now. I'm having an open house, would love for you to come through it and give my sellers feedback, right? Family from church, hey, I know you're probably not buying right now, but if you're on Sunday, I would love for you to come by my open house and provide feedback for my sellers. And by the way, I'm going to have or something like that, so encouraging people to come for feedback, not only just to purchase the property,
Right.
is important. Make sure you're telling friends and families. Have some target marketing. So like if you have a property, you should be calling Sarah Page. Hey, Sarah Page, you do a ton of business and when, I, have a listing that's coming up. Do you have any buyers? If you're listing something in, if you're going to do a broker open outside of the rate, going into some of those local brokerages and saying, hey, I'm having a broker open, or, reaching out to see what other open houses are happening in the area and connecting those agents and saying, hey, I noticed you're having an open house. When people come through your, they may or may not do that, right?
Yeah, but it's good to reach out to that other brokerage at least, and then they can start spreading the word that you have a house for sale out there.
Yeah.
Is broker open on like other brokerages? Is like
It's for all brokerages.
for all brokerages. Oh, okay. But it's not like for
It's for-
agent.
just for agents.
Just okay.
Some video tours, videos get more traction on social media. Open house schedule. of the property to prospective buyers. So if you did open houses in the past, maybe their open house in that same neighborhood, reaching out to your past open house list and say, house yet. It was really nice to meet you at X, Y, and Z. I'm holding an open house at this
Mhm.
weekend. Just wanted to extend the invitation, right? So that could be an additional touch for houses to
Mhm.
reconnect with them.
Mhm.
Provide weekly updates and marketing efforts to buyers and buyers agents who visit the property. Make sure that you're reaching out to anybody who's visited the property to have a conversation with as to what do their clients think about the property, what do they physically think about the property. Unfortunately, a lot of agents don't fill out the broker bay as well as they should. And that's something as a buyer's agent, please take time to do that. And if a listing agent is going to be courteous enough to allow you to show that, please provide good feedback, because the goal for the feedback is condition updates or price updates.
Yeah.
And so we need that agents to be able to have those conversations with our clients. Take the time to do that within 24 hours of
And
doing
you know,
it.
I'm always honest on my comment. If it, even if it's a home and is as in condition, sometimes they'll say, oh, there's just too many. You know, because they need to know why people aren't buying
Buying
it.
it. Yeah,
Just how they need to market it.
right.
Who sees the comments? Does the seller also see?
Depending on how they have it set up,
Oh,
you
okay.
can, right? So make sure that you're being mindful when you're sending the. If I show a property and there's like a water leak or something like that, I'm always taking a picture. We're not writing on this property, but you might want to get this looked
Yeah,
at, right?
I'd say if there's some the other agent may not be aware of, I'd say that you
Mhm.
take a picture, and I just texted them, hey, I just was here looking at your this water leak in the basement. You sent a picture, and they're like, oh my God, thank you. Because they haven't been over there for a few days. Water leak in the basement.
Yeah. I
So
did-
part of it is just supporting your co-op agents in the industry. Do that for you.
Yeah, I did that one time. They're like, I already know about this. And I was like, okay, well, I don't. The siding is falling off the house. I'm not.
You're
gonna
just being
put a dirty
dirty.
house like that. That's why they're not interested.
And then know what's going on, right? So certain holidays may restrict, making sure too that you have all the right documents. Make sure you have your seller's disclosure. Make sure that you're using professional pictures. If you have a floor plan, you're getting that attached. That's something doing is having the floor plan done with the pictures. Just
Where do you get that?
purchase it in your photo package.
Okay.
It's pricey, but I think overall, and then I've been doing for my buyers is creating a post-closing notebook to hand. And I just started doing this year. And so at the closing table, having a copy of their home warranty and in their contract in there, having a copy of the MLS listing in there, of the seller's disclosure in there, having a copy of their closing disclosure, you know what I'm saying, and the documents that they get. So creating kind of a note part of your manual for your home.
Mhm.
As you do things to the property here, right? So if you update the AC or anything like that, like this should be your, and then when you get ready to sell your home, it'll make it nice for the next person. That's kind of something that I just, as something added that I've been starting to.
Now, Kristen talked about that on Tuesday, making one for when you're the listing agent, having one ready.
Mhm.
So since most agents don't do that, Regina's making her own for the buyer.
Mhm.
For their new home. But if you're the one listing it, then you would have that started.
Yeah, and especially now that we're going in and where
Mhm.
people are actually getting home warranties, you know, making sure that your clients know how to use, you know, what they cover, right?
Yeah.
And here's your contract number, you know, because when you're getting somebody a home warranty, but you're not showing them how to use it, you've just wasted nine of
That's
somebody's
exactly
money.
what happened with us. I didn't know who to call or anything, and so they offered me absolutely no good.
Mhm.
So I wish they would have just not offered it. And done
Yeah, you
something
need to
else.
give them all. I love the idea of a book. That's just so,
Mhm.
I usually do a folder. I think maybe I'm gonna start with a binder with the 3-hole punch.
Yeah, and then start like also like maybe like slide in the
Mhm.
some like the little, and you put your business card in there, you know. I've included a couple of my business cards, so if you know anybody who's thinking about buying and selling, it'll be. Also have included a great plumber, you know, so taking some of the business cards from our and putting in here. So I've started, you know, a little bit of a vendor list in case you do things, you know, that you have a plumber, you have some people that you can call right away, you know. And then born and have
Your own personal
personal
contact.
people, then you can put the themselves, you know. So that's just something that I was like, I've kind of seen it was a hole in our business, and I start doing something like that for our clients. So you can use Canva, you can use your local lenders to help you. But you could your listings do directly command
Into the design.
into the
Yeah.
design. Really do this and create a Google ad or a Facebook ad from here also. Going to command training for that.
Yes.
Don't depend on your coach.
Definitely attend the training sessions. Brett's really
Wednesday.
good about explaining this.
Oh,
They're Wednesday, Thursday afternoon.
And then just because there are a lot of negative Nellies out in the world business, so their main objective is to be following and being trolls on Facebook and getting other people. So make sure that you're following the proper guidelines in regards to marketing, that you have signage, you are following the and making sure that you get it in, that you're getting your public remarks, and you're following the rules and stuff like that. So if you're doing anything on Facebook, make sure that you always have the broker's logo, if you have a separate logo together. Make sure that you always include this number. Now, I think it's only required on the Missouri side.
But just do it.
Just do it. To make sure that you're not only including your cell number, but you're including the office number and all of your logo should only be 2 times bigger than the. So if Keller Williams' logo is 1 inch, your logo can only be. So I mean, so keep that in mind in regards to if you have any questions or you're going to spend a lot of money doing marketing or printing, and look over it before you hit submit to pay hundreds of dollars for that
And it is compliant.
it's compliant. You know, if you're ordering your own personal sign, you get the design approved before you send it out to print. So
Hey, Regina, I kind of have a question about as a seller's agent, I don't know, is it better when you're listing the home to have it as pre-MLS for a while, or is it better just to list it right, like, on Thursday and it just pops up? I didn't know if it just depends
Well,
on what's in the market.
it really kind of depends. So pre-MLS is good, especially if you have, pre-MLS is great because that means you've got your person under contract.
Yeah.
And signed.
Yeah.
And we can't and it's just weird, like we can't have anything post dated. And once you get a signed contract, it has to be done within a certain time frame. So if you have a motivated seller, then getting it in pre-MLS, and having them signed, do that all day long. Pre-MLS, I mean, it's kind of your like market. So, I mean, if somebody's gonna sell in 6 months, you should put them in pre-MLS because it's supposed to create a buzz, right? Especially like the closer you get to school starting. If
Mhm.
you had like a $400,000 or $500,000 house, that should be in pre-MLS because somebody may be moving because of school districts. And we want the agents to be aware that that's coming to the market soon.
So they can be, yeah.
Um, once you allow an agent in the property, it does have to go live within 24 hours. So make sure that if you do get an inquiry about the property, that if the seller is open to showing it, and accepting an offer, that they're willing to go active within 24 hours. So, so you really want, so I would do pre-MLS
Yeah,
if
I
all day.
try to too if I can. With my clients, it's like, well, if you're ready to, move in July, let's go ahead and get the contract signed today. I can get everything started. Cause I don't care if it sits on pre-MLS for 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
Then I'm guaranteed to get the listing.
And it kind of gives you a timeline, like to touch base. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's our timeline. So we said that we were going to list on this date based off of you following this timeline.
Right.
So it's giving you checkpoints with your client. So did you have the cleaners come out when you said they were? Did you get that trim painted that you promised you were going to get painted this week? Have you done your yard cleanup? Wait, you know what I'm saying? So it helps you stay on track in regards to your to-do list with your sellers. Okay, remember we said we were gonna hit this deadline, and with the city, with the market getting more aggressive, we've preset our photos, because if I got a listing today and I needed Josiah to go out and get pictures taken next week, there's a good possibility I can't get pictures.
He's already booked.
He's already booked, but by having it in pre-MLS and having an established timeline, we said we're gonna have pictures on this day, so it's easier to move that date out for new pictures than it is to try to get a photographer in ASAP. Right
Do
now.
you need to pay a photographer for the pre-MLS pictures and then for the final
No,
pictures, right?
no.
No, but if I know I have a pre-MLS date and I know
Uh-huh.
I have a tentative live date, then I can go ahead and schedule my photos
Uh-huh.
right before that. You do have to have a photo of the
Okay.
outside of the
Yeah.
property, you know what I'm saying?
I take my photo for pre-MLS just with my own phone.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Ideally, it's a sunny day and I get a decent enough picture of the front.
Okay.
And that's all you post for pre-MLS, is
Mhm.
just the outside.
Got it.
Because we're
Okay.
not really advertising the house yet. You're getting ready to advertise the
Mhm.
house.
I see. Okay.
You're just notifying everybody that that one's coming on the market, generating interest. And then it gives you that 2 to 6 weeks to get everything ready.
Mhm.
Got it. And you can put, if the seller's okay with it, put a sign in the yard saying like.
You can
pre-
put a,
You
you
can
put a
coming
sign,
soon or
sign in the
pre-
yard, yeah.
just come inside the
Yeah,
Okay.
but if you put a coming soon sign in the yard, make sure that you have your paperwork in, it's the same and it's in the pre-MLS within
Got
it.
So are you saying if it's in pre-MLS, then you can look at it 24 hours ahead of time before it goes live? Is that what you're saying? Like as a buyer's,
Well,
I'm just
no.
wondering.
Normally, no one sees it until it goes live, unless there's somebody's it specifically calls and says, we are really interested in this property, can we get in?
Yeah.
Then you'd have to talk to them about how serious they are, because you have to go live after you show it to them.
So you could potentially get it in a house 24 hours prior to it going on live based off of your conversation with the listing agent. But as soon as the listing agent lets anyone in the property that's in pre-MLS, it has to go live within 24 hours.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And sometimes pre-MLS get offered before going live.
Yes.
And so if you do have an offer in pre-MLS and you get an offer sight unseen, because that does happen, and your seller accepts the offer sight unseen, right? You have to go into your MLS, flip it to active, update the notes to property sold before processed, and then and into pending. You can't go pre-MLS to pending. You have to go pre-MLS, active,
Mhm.
update to the notes why the public didn't get into it, you know what I'm saying? So before processed, then go into pending. If you get into any tricky situations and you don't know how to navigate what next step your listing should go into, call MLS and ask them, hey, I have this unique situation. How do I handle this? What is the process to make sure that I'm in compliance and I don't get a flag? And they'll tell you exactly how to do it.
They're
So-
very, very helpful.
So if you have a POE, call them and ask them how to handle the POE.
Can you post
because,
that number in the page in our agent?
Um, yeah, I can,
I have it memorized. It's
Or
in my phone.
maybe in the group me.
and the MLS is super, like, I always just go, I mean, go out to
I
her.
think it's actually on the MLS. right?
It's
They
on
handle
it, you know what I'm saying,
Okay.
but we can get it
yeah.
out there for you. So we'll put that out on GroupMe. But it's on that. So I always just like, if I have any questions, I say, hey, I call them and say, here's the scenario, right?
661-1600.
So, okay, so we'll put that out on GroupMe.
Yeah, I'll do
Um,
it right now.
And they'll help you. That's what they're there for. So if you have any questions, utilize them too. Because they have, they have an attorney there if you have any kind of questions. Now, they're probably not going to answer everything for you, but they can give you some guidelines to make sure that you're following any rules that you may or may not be aware of.
So you can't accept that offer though until you have it in active, correct? Like can you accept an offer while you're in pre-MLS?
Yeah, you can accept offer.
Okay, you
but
just
you-
have to do that within
Yeah,
24
but you
hours.
have to do it within the certain, like, it still has to always, like, if you go pre-MLS, it has to go active. Then you update your notes and then you can put it in pending,
Okay.
So successfully working with your co-agents. So at this point in your transaction, you're going to be communicating with several different agents, either the listing agent on a property for your buyers that are interested, or vice versa. So make sure that you're having communication with them. Make sure that you're making a good first impression with the agent that you're working with. Because the way you communicate gives me an idea of how well this transaction is going to go. Also make yourself more memorable. I work with a couple of niche products, done a really good job in regards to explaining the product to the listing agent and ensuring them that it's, how the product works. And a lot of times I'll get agents call me back saying, hey, I have this property and you used Berry Rock Homes and brought a buyer. Could you market my property and help me do it again? Right. So making sure that you're having those conversations and you're respecting people's professionalism. So, don't be calling agents after 9 o'clock unless it's absolute urgent. But get permission when you're in a transaction. Like, now that we're under contract, what is your best communication style? What are some, is there any timeframes that you're not available so that I'm not interrupting you during those times? Just be considerate of the person that you're working with. And things may seem urgent to you, and they might, and by all means valid, are probably urgent to you and your client, but you're also working on the other side. So if it's the buyer side or the seller side, if, you want something signed right away, it might not happen right away. I have a buyer now. And she's like, I have to be the first person in this house. Well, honey, it doesn't matter if you're the first or the last person in the house. That offers are, it's really kind of an offer window.
Yeah.
It's not the first offer gets the prize
No.
like it used to be.
That's not-
It's an offer window. So we just need to make sure that when we're showing the property that we're putting in our best offer. and getting her to kind of understand that process. And she's like a little roller coaster of it. And like she texts me 1,000 pictures all the time, and I'm like, okay, and so I have to let her know, just because I don't respond every time you send me something, doesn't mean that I'm ignoring you. It just means that you're texting me at 4 in the morning and I'm still asleep. Like,
Yeah, like you're gonna solve the problem before in the morning. Maybe by 8 a.m. I can deal with it.
yeah. So
Be real.
so I always tell people, I mean, even with like my coaching clients, like ideally I get that we're 8 to 8, but I'm not off the ground running until about 9. The time I get up and I get my kids to school and stuff like that, I'm really not wholeheartedly into anything until about 9 o'clock. So, make sure that you give your sellers, it used to be like you could put an aggressive timeline on your offers. But give people 24, 48 hours to respond. Most agents, the deadline is more of a suggestion than it is really a true factor, used to really mean something, but these days it's more of a gesture.
I'm letting us know we have multiple offers. If you're
Mhm.
interested, get them in by 4 o'clock, please.
But I do, like, if I'm in multiple offer situations and I put an offer in and my buyers are like, I don't want to waste a whole weekend waiting.
Right.
So I'll touch base and say, okay, hey, we submitted an offer. Are we even in the running still?
Yeah.
If we're not, we need to know so we can go look at other properties.
Yeah.
So having that communication and stuff like that, or calling the agent before even showing the property. Hey, do you have multiple offers? Yes. Okay. Our max is 300. The house is listed at 275. If we go look at the house, are we even going to be able to compete?
And if they say no, that means they have an offer sitting at 300 or higher.
Yeah.
So you know not to waste your client's time.
And a lot of agents are courteous and they'll say, we understand how it works. And like one agent's like, you didn't hear it from me, but just because you asked, I'm going to tell you,
Yeah. So then if you're already set up to go see it though, or do you try to your clients, like, I like this property, you call the listing agent, see, and have that conversation. And then they come back and they're like, yeah, you wouldn't like stand a chance in this.
Mhm.
Then you just report back, hey, it's already under like pending. How do you like report that back to your client without being like, oh, sorry, you don't have enough money for this property?
Yeah. So what I would say is, hey, based off of the conversation I had with the listing agent, they have multiple offers. And unfortunately, the offers are over our max number that we
Okay.
have.
Yeah.
So it's probably not a best use of our time to focus on this property
Okay.
because the offers have already exceeded, our ability to be able to compete.
Okay.
Also, on the selling side, do you recommend saying those offers?
Well, when I do my
Buyer?
listing presentation, this is what I always tell my sellers. If it's in your favor to share information, I would like permission to share. If it's not in your favor, know that I'm not going to share. So if you call me and you say, hey, do you have multiple offers? And I do, but none of them are at list price. I'm going to say, well, yes, I do. And I'm not going to give you any more information. Or if they're just a little bit above list price or whatever like that, right? Yes, we have 2 current offers. Showing activity is still aggressive. We're going to wait a couple more days or get through the open house before we make an offer or a decision. So I'm always going to play in the favor of my seller.
Yeah.
Now, if you call me and say, hey, we have a $300,000 budget. You guys are listed at 295. Can we compete? Right? Then I'm probably gonna tell you like, hey, we got to offer over that number, but do what feels best for your client, because all offers will be presented, and in terms play.
Yeah, sometimes terms can be
play
more important than
than price, right? So, you know, so so I just kind of play as fair as possible, and most agents do too. Now there are some agents that are out there that are short and not nice, right? But there are other offers that, I mean, it's, you know, like, I showed a house one time and then I got all this information from the agent, and I must have called him early off in the day before he got bombarded and was just like, I can't answer another question about this property. And then somebody from my team showed it. And so I reached out and I said, here's the deal. Do you know this? And I gave him, he's like, how do you have all this information? I said, well, I got it from the listing agent. And he's like, well, the listing agent wouldn't give me any information. I said, well, you know, this is, you know.
He was burnt out by the end of the day.
Mhm. And so I must have caught him at the right time, or the way that I communicated was a better communication style. I said, well, this is what I got. And we couldn't compete with the number, you know. So we didn't even go look at the house. So make sure you guys are staying on top of your daily success plan. Make sure you're having your conversations daily. Remember, that looks like kind of like Connor going on vacation, having conversations about what other people's real estate markets look like, right? Capturing those contacts, following up with those people, you know, if you got that information, and you know, be a good referral agent or a partner with those people that you've met, you know. Make sure you're writing your handwritten notes. You know, we're getting ready to go into Mother's Day season. As a mother, I always, you know, so make sure you're reaching out to those women who are empowering, that are in your life. Even if they're not a mother, thank them for being a role model, you know. So that's like, we don't have the greatest fathers in our family. So when Father's Day rolls around, we always honor men that are in the community that are exceptional, you know. So just know that, you know, so I always have my kids write 5 notes to people who impact their lives that are male role models, and let them know that they're doing a great job. And so utilize the things that are coming up based off of, you know, what's happening in your, you know, graduations coming up. You know, I have a senior, a lot of her friends, they're the last child, you know, so now what are you doing? Are you guys going to be downsizing, or, you know, so if you're going out to grad parties, those are great conversations to have. Oh, you know, like, super excited that your, you know, child's graduating. So what does this mean for your family now, right? Just continue to bring value to people in your life. Make sure you're engaging with people on social media. And then make sure you're following the do not call list if you're using the for sale by owner list that you get, or the expired list that you're getting. Those are great lists to be cultivating business from. So I would be encouraging you to having calls to for sale by owners and expireds, and trying to cultivate relationships to see if they're looking to hire. Make sure you're doing your weekly tracker, so that we can see what your guys are doing over the weekend. Make sure that you are utilizing your coaches. So if there's anything that we can do to help you with your business, if you guys are feeling stuck or anything like that, please share with us, because if you don't share with us what some of your struggles are, it's hard for us to get you over those humps and onto a positive path. Other than that, I've gone over a lot of information today with you guys. Is there anything that you want me to touch on or dive into a little bit more? Anything that you want to share before we go into red class?
For me, I know we've talked about like the presentation and the buyer's guide, but there's just like so much. Are those the same thing and just different verbiages? Like, because I know a lot of people do PowerPoints when they meet with people. So would I just take my guide and put it in the presentation of a PowerPoint, or?
So it's kind of like this. So like, we have notes, right? and then we have a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Use your best form of communication.
Okay.
So, and it will change once you find your
Yeah.
jam, right?
Okay.
So when I first started, I just went and was like, "Woo!" And I gave everything and nobody could talk because I couldn't even breathe. And I just was like, woo, like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't get very much business, but so then I went to a class and the guy said that he goes into his appointments with an agenda. So then I created an agenda like I was going into a business presentation, which was very familiar because I came out of corporate America.
Yeah.
And I sat down with the buyer and seller. I said, okay, here's the deal. These are our talking points for the next 30 minutes. These are the things that I'm going to touch base on, right? And then I would give myself space to breathe and add into the agenda, like ask questions,
Okay.
so it'd give me like points to where to slow down and how to better communicate. So I used that for a while. Now when I go in, I just have a conversation and I take really good notes,
Okay.
and that's my style now, I've learned. But I've had to go through a couple different trial and errors to figure out how do I best communicate, how to learn to pause.
Mhm.
Because once I get excited about something, I'm just like, and then I forget that other people's or may not be as excited as I am about things. So I have to learn how to slow down, pause, and allow people to come into the conversation, and then learn how to listen and not be like, oh, I can't wait for them to stop talking so I can talk more.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why their mouth is moving, but I needed to stop because I got more to say. So I have to learn that it's more about listening than it is about talking.
Okay.
So when you go in, you really want to spearhead the conversation to get them to start sharing, because they're going to give you a guideline on what's important to them, right? And so it doesn't matter how much you know and how much you can just throw at them
Mhm.
if you're not communicating on their level and how they receive things.
Yeah.
That's how you win the relationship, right?
Okay.
And they'll tell you if you listen what's important to them,
Okay.
because I could give you 10 things that are important to me.
Yeah.
But if those 10 things don't resonate with you at all, that doesn't really matter.
Okay.
So if I can ask enough questions from you to pull those 10 things out of you, then I can say, well, that is so great. Communication is your top number one. That's my number one value proposition. I'm committed to making sure that through this transaction, you're well informed in regards to anything that you may have. And that being that said, these are the hours that I'm operating. This is my personal cell phone. So please reach out to me if you have any concerns. So I'm addressing that concern. Number two, okay. So if you're doing like an expired listing presentation, what went well with your last listing? What didn't go so great? Well, then I know what didn't go so great. I'm not doing that stuff.
Yeah, like I didn't work for that.
Or I'm overcompensating in that hole, right? So this is where the client now distrusts because, our agent put a sign in the yard and we never heard from him. We didn't, so, well, that's very unfortunate, but my process when I work with clients is, and when it's a seller, that every Monday morning, I'm going to give you a call personally and let you know about the feedback, right? If there's anything present during the week that has to do with condition or something like that, that maybe we could take care of right away, you're going to hear from me right when that happens. But, setting a schedule of when am I going to communicate with you? How am I going to communicate with you? And then the goal is, if I have a client that reaches out to me before I reach out to them, then that's when I'm like, okay, you just have a hole in your business, because they should always be hearing from me first.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
so if they're not hearing from me first because there's an issue or something like that, and that's where like working with a really good lender, like my lender partner should be coming to me like, hey, we're having some problems with this file, and I'm aware of that before my client calls me and says, hey, so and so called me and said this about what, right? So making sure that when you're having those relationships with the people that you're working with,
Uh-huh.
that they know that you want to be informed first.
Okay.
Because I don't want to be caught off guard.
Yeah.
I don't want my client calling me and I'm unaware of what's happening in a transaction.
Okay.
So making sure that you're having those conversations, right? And so that's how I always kind of have like my grading on how well I've done on a transaction is how many times has a client contacted me before I contacted them. If they're reaching out to me wondering what's going on with their listing, then I'm not doing a very good job communicating as their listing agent.
Okay.
Yeah. So, or I'm not reaching their expectation, or I did,
Talking to people more than once a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to set those expectations up in the beginning of what that looks like, and when you don't have as much business, but if you get where you're doing 4 or 6 transactions a month, then setting a schedule of expectations and conversations are important, so. All right, is there anything else? It's 11 o'clock and red class is getting ready to start, so if you have any command issues or anything like that, or want to learn about command, then that would be a great class to step into. Other than that, I hope everybody has a great week and a successful weekend in real estate.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks, Regina.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. Bye, Serena. We did good.